here with us, and it's such a delight to have you here. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
And last but not least is Kojo Yangson, the friend of the house. He's a broadcast journalist with Joy FM, and it's such a pleasure and a delight to have you all here. Now, let's unpack the issues. We'll begin with our first issue, which has to do with the 4 vacant seats and the following events where there's some sort of controversy and more or less the settlement with some members of parliament concerning the adjournment of parliament indefinitely. What do you make of it in this material moment, considering the fact that we are not too far from election 2024? Esquire, I start with you.
Okay, thank you. So I think that some of us were very convinced in our minds that we're going to get to a point like this, because I have always maintained that it was actually necessary and useful for the court to have considered the implication of that stay of execution, what the implications generally would be. And then one of the implications of it is what we are seeing now. Because we have said it repeatedly that upon a true and proper appreciation of the concept or principles of separation of powers, the 3 arms of government are actually supposed to operate within their own domains, and they all actually have a constitutional duty not to get into the domain of each other. And the correct understanding of that principle would mean that the court should have actually been guided, the court should have thought it out truly and carefully, that in issuing this stay of execution, what would be the likely consequences. So now you would see that the 6 grounds, the basis of which Honorable Alexander Afenyo-Markin went to the court was, they have now all come to be what he wanted to protect or to prevent. And this actually reminds me of the statement in the Bible that what I fear most has come to me, and what I dreaded has overtaken me. So because when you look at all the 6 grounds...
Isn't it interesting that as a Muslim, you are so conversant with the Bible?
Yeah, we'll talk about that. I'll tell you my familiarity with the Bible. I'm very familiar with the Bible. Yeah. So basically, that is it, And then I am very worried. When these issues started, some of us started saying that, look, there's dark clouds of rain in the sky. If we don't take time, we are going to plunge ourselves into a huge and endless constitutional crisis. And when you look at the mood of the country, I think that we didn't need to get to this level at this particular point. Because when elections is coming, you agree with me that the political ambience gets to be charged. And once it's charged, people get sensational and sentimental. You understand? So I believe that the court should have took all these things into consideration. And when you look at the Interpretation Act, it has actually said that when court is about to take a decision, that the court should actually take into consideration, the environment. So what is happening now is actually a logical sequel of the stay of execution. Now the question is, the stay of execution order, I think that we have said this, we've discussed these issues again and again and again. Was it actually useful? In my considered opinion, I think it wasn't necessary, because in any case, it is my very considered belief that the jurisdiction of the court was not properly invoked. And where the jurisdiction of the court is not properly invoked, it amounts, or is almost as, in fact, it amounts to the court not having jurisdiction at all. And, when you listen to the conversations that have been going on in the media waves concerning this matter, it's like we have not actually drummed, sufficiently on the issue of jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is fundamental to every law. Jurisdiction is the lifeblood of every litigation. So once the jurisdiction of the court was not properly invoked, in law, what that meant was that the court didn't have jurisdiction at all. And as I said here the other time, when it comes to the issue of jurisdiction, it is either you have jurisdiction or you don't have jurisdiction. So when parties, come together to agree, that cannot confer jurisdiction on the court. You understand? So jurisdiction is such that, do you have jurisdiction? Do you not have jurisdiction? So in this case, it is my considered view, respectful view, that the court didn't actually have jurisdiction to issue the writ that it did. And then I have said this in a different platform, that even if the court, is zealous to do substantial justice, where the court doesn't have jurisdiction, their zealousness to do substantive justice cannot be a virtue. In fact, it will be overzealousness on their part and desperation. And this is the logical, sequence of all those things. So I believe that going forward, you've seen the other issues that have come up, where Alexander Fenyomakin is actually saying that he will go to court, he will go and invoke, the authority of the court, the jurisdiction of the court, to compel Parliament, to come back to finish their own, finish businesses. And then this morning I was also listening to Honorable Roxanne Nelson, who also said that he would also go to court. Yeah, that he also go to court to make sure that that doesn't happen. He also, so it's a jumble. We have actually, at this moment, our country has actually been thrown into a Chinese fire drill. Nobody can predict with accuracy what is going to happen. But in all this, it is actually my view that lessons are there for us to learn as a people. And then the court, I believe that the court has seen what has happened. So the legislature has its leadership, just like the judiciary. I believe that this is the time for them to actually have a very objective, rounded, dispassionate conversation about the future of our country. Because I can also see in this struggle that it's also a battle of egos. And then when you actually engage in a battle which is not built on principle and it's just about egos, sometimes it has no ending date because it's about ego. So the leadership of the legislature, the leadership of the court, they should sit down and thrash this out. Otherwise, the entire people of Ghana are going to be held ransom. Because whatever happens in Parliament today, you know that nothing can happen. They have a lot of bills. Even I understand that the appropriation bill and what have you, they cannot move. And all these things I expected the court to have known, that if you actually exert your authority or your power on Parliament, and Parliament said, okay, we're also going to exert our power, we will ensure that, okay, the power is vested in the Speaker of Parliament, to be able to adjourn the proceedings of Parliament. If he says that, okay, I'm also going to invoke it. Look at what is happening. So, and then I can see that he's also flexing his muscle, just to prove to the judiciary that your power ends at where my power begins. And now, it's a complete mess.
Just like how some newspaper or news portals have captioned it as more like Game of Thrones, and everybody is trying to show that they have power within their domain. But I want to find out from you that does this lead to a broader constitutional political mayhem moving forward? Yeah,
if they actually do not sit at the round table to have a very sincere, dispassionate, patriotic conversation, this can continue. Like I said, when you are fighting with somebody and your fight is not predicated on principle and it is just ego fights from history we have learned can actually lead to unimaginable and unnatural consequences. So I believe that this country also has leaders. People hold some, influential positions, and they are all seeing. Everybody is seeing that, look, this is the time for us to have a conversation, a national dialogue, which is based on patriotism, so that we can, fashion decisions that would actually move our country forward. But if everybody is going to remain in their domain, where you think that, okay, I'm powerful here, if you think that you are powerful, come to Parliament and come and enforce what you are saying. And they will also sit there and say, okay, you come. And this also goes back to the issue of what is law. So, for example, when you look at the American realists, they have actually, particularly Oliver Wendell Holmes, he has said that, look, law is not what Parliament makes. Law is the prophecies of what the court will do. Whatever we say, that is the law. And Parliament said, we would have to make something for you to say something on it. If we don't make, what do you say? So it's a struggle. And then in Ghana, I think that you can see clearly this battle. So I believe that it's time for us to have a national dialogue. It's time that, you know, the leaders of our country should throw away their partisan interests, their sectional interests, their ethnocentric interests, come together. Let's have a conversation. Otherwise, we are going to brace ourselves for deeper and sharper constitutional crisis.
Right. Thank you very much, Esquire. Let me come to Comrade Amma. And in the broader spectrum of what's going on, people have said that this is politically motivated. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is politics as usual. This is clearly politically motivated. I mean, we can trace this all the way to when we had a previous speaker and decisions that he made, you know, that our present speaker is keeping with, you know. And all of us have, is the proverbial, this is what is happening. And it's politics as usual, you know. I mean, if he did it and it was good at the time, we are doing it and it's good at the time. But underneath all of that, for me, is perhaps this education of constitutional processes, the law, you know, precedents, conventions, what is and all of that. I would say that, and we had this conversation here the last time, I would say that in black and white, what should happen is stated. I don't think there should be any confusion about what should have happened, you know, directly or indirectly about what has happened. There's what should happen. There's black and white, you know. It's stated right in our constitution, you know, what should happen and who has the powers to make what should happen happen. Which is why I'm always of the view that when we choose our leaders, we have to choose people who have hearts for us, people who care, people who can interpret the laws, but people who can also read us in the moment and do right by us. Because sometimes over-reliance on letters and I'm finding, and I stand to be corrected,
right,
could lead us into deeper troubles than, you know, than ever before.
Right.
Which is why, as a Speaker of Parliament, and I don't mean this Speaker, I don't mean I mean all speakers, you know, the ones we've had in the past and the ones we are yet to have, should always remember that you are not there for party. You are not there for self. It's not a show of power. It's not an allegiance. You know, it's not for you to show your loyalty to this part or that part. You are there for all of us and to take decisions that will stand the test of time. You know, and I find that we keep getting it wrong. As we sit here, there's complete confusion. There's complete confusion. I was reading one of the, you know, handouts that the producer printed out.
Right.
You know, this letter from Parliament, you know, to all MP staff and members of the press. There's like an A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H set of rules that people going into Parliament were meant to follow on a particular day. Vehicles should not be allowed here, MPs should be dropped off there, Ghana police should come in and provide directions to designated drop-off zones, MPs should wear their parliamentary tags, access to the chamber should be from, from 8 o'clock, public, you know. Are we going into a war zone? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. And we are how many days away from a national election? This is completely needless. And for me, even as we sit here, we still can't see our way clear. Parliament has been adjourned indefinitely, right? Everybody is stressing to go to court to seek judicial interpretation of a process that is clear. You know, our Speaker of Parliament has had to issue 2 communiques clearing his integrity, immediate release, what's it called? Treat with disdain, attempt to smear the Speaker of Parliament. I mean, come on. And all for what? All because the leaders that we have in this country today cannot stick with principle, cannot deal with issues in a way that protects the integrity of this country, that protects our oneness, that keeps us all together, but will continue to play politics, with the issues. The rest of us know what we want. We are clear in our minds, I think it's time that our leaders get with the program. I'm struggling not to deal with the specific issue because everything is in court and everything is open to interpretation. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. And I feel as though all of this would have been completely needless. All of this is completely needless. If we showed heart. If a decision is right, it's right. And I'm doing this because I've heard all kinds of legal interpretations, all kinds of constitutional education that I didn't think possible. People are making sense on all sides of the
conversation
of the issue. And it's beautiful. If I thought that it was going to end in us expanding, our democratic process, if I thought that at the end of the day the Ghanaian would come out better, I would have been applauding and saying that, oh, wonderful, we are learning, it's deepening democracy in this country, But I think not. All of these communiques is because we know that if we don't adjourn and we go and sit in parliament, parliamentarians are going to get beaten by parliamentarians. And at the end of the day, we will have no finality. That's what this is. If parliament can't get it together, 44 days or 45 days to a major election.
I'm feeling the heat from here. But Kojo, I've also heard you make submissions on this very subject matter. But I want to find out from you, ideally, the judiciary is supposed to be the arbiter between the executive and the legislature. But they have become more or less like what people say out there, like a hatchet. A hatchet where that is, just performing or exercising power to the whims and caprices of some political or a certain political party. What do you make of the judiciary and how they are playing things out in recent times?
Thank you. I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
And this matter has so many interesting legal dimensions, and every time the conversation comes up and you listen to any lawyer worth their salt, you learn something new. I just did right now listening to Kadri, because there are so many different parts of this thing to bite into as a lawyer. Your training comes in and there's so much in there, particularly because this is the first time we've had this exact set of circumstances happen in our democracy. I'm not a lawyer, but I think it was John Mortimer, a famous British advocate, who said, there is no brilliance required in law, merely common sense and relatively clean fingernails. I wash my hands regularly, so my fingernails are okay. And as for common sense, I have some. So much as I don't have the legal training that some of our colleagues have, I have the luxury of being able to look at everything that's happening and ask, is this common sense or not? So let's walk through it. We have a constitution that was written a long time ago and came into effect in 1992 that we have lived and worked with to this day. That constitution has laid out some very simple conditions under which a member of parliament would lose their seat. Very clear in English. In fact, it is so clear that we have applied it under this fourth constitution, under this fourth republic, thank you, several times without any question or ambiguity. Several times. So what was different this time? There was only one thing different, and that was the time factor. The fact that these vacancies became an issue within a certain 60-day window during which no by-election could be held. That is it. If this had happened at any other time during the year, any other time during the life of this government, there would have been no issue. We would have simply read the constitution. Okay, these people have left their party, so let's replace them. Then we would go to the constituency, hold by elections, and replace them. Case die. But we can't do that. So the declaration of vacancy changes the balance of power, because we've always had this very close, these close numbers in Parliament. That is all. That is the only unique situation that has given birth to this sudden confusion among lawmakers about what the law means. That's it. So you walk through this thing, and I mean, first of all, you don't understand where is the confusion. The Constitution has said it, that if you came into Parliament on the ticket of a party, and at any point you leave that party, you lose your seat. The end. Michael Quay reinforced this with his ruling, which I will be honest with you, I didn't agree with, because it didn't match my idea of democracy.
Right.
I was thinking, I've voted someone in. We don't necessarily vote for members of parliament based on their party, as you can tell, because in many constituencies, it's not the person who wins the presidency who is not the same party that gives the president to that constituency that gives their MP. Very often, the MP comes from a different person. So we know that Ghanaians are not always voting for a party. They are usually voting for a person. So with that in my mind, I thought that the ruling didn't really cement our democracy. Again, I'm talking common sense, not law. However, he made the ruling. They abided by it. It stood. So we all came to understand that if you leave your party, you leave Parliament. Okay. So at this point, forget about the time difference or the time frame that creates this sudden tension. The simple question is, have these four people left the party with which they came into Parliament? Of course, one of them came as an independent and is now going to run for a party. So again, the question is, has he become something other than what platform he came in on, right? The same question applies to all four. Has it happened or not? That is a common sense question. It's not a matter of how you read the Constitution. The Constitution, the English is clear. The question is, has it happened or not? That's common sense. So what do you look at? Okay, how does a person leave their party?
Right.
Well, you can take the MPP to start with. Their Constitution is also very clear on how you leave their party. If you declare support for someone other than their candidate, you've left the party. If you yourself run for office on a platform other than their party, you've left the party. It's there. They've written it.
Yeah.
And they have even added a very helpful word, automatically. It's there. They've added it for all of our assistants, that the departure from the party is automatic. It doesn't require some people to sit down and ask, has he left or not? And then decide that, okay, he has left.
Yeah.
No, the leaving is automatic. And we saw it applied when Alan Chamantin left and some people declared support for him.
Hopes in Adoye and Co.
Yes. Yabwabe and Samoa or Hinito, your Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yes, I call them the Fantastic.
Exactly. Wow. I don't remember the fourth guy. But it was automatic. The party wrote to them. They said, look, you have automatically left us. So bye-bye. They didn't say, we have sat down and thought about it. And the way the thing looks, it be like you left. No. They say you've automatically left. So we all understand what it means to leave the party. So if, what's the name of the lady? Cynthia Thompson or?
Morrison.
Cynthia Morrison.
Morrison.
Thank you very much. So if Cynthia Morrison gets up and goes to the Electoral Commission and fills a form that says that she's going to run as an independent in a constituency where someone else has filled a form to run for MPP. So she's going to run against this person. Has she left the party or not?
She has, automatically.
Thank you. This is common sense. When you are filling the form, they ask you which party you belong to.
Yeah.
Did she write MPP?
No.
So is it, I mean, am I the only one who doesn't get this?
Yeah.
Am I the only one with clean fingernails?
And
it's clear, is it not?
It is.
But suddenly, because of time constraint, we don't understand. So we have to go and ask Supreme Court.
Okay. But is it really because of time constraints?
Listen, if this had happened at any other time, the solution would simply have been to go and do a by-election.
Right.
Right. It has happened in a window during which they cannot do by-elections. So whatever happens will be the state of Parliament until Parliament expires.
Right.
So yes, it's time frame that has suddenly caused everybody to be confused. If it wasn't for that, we would have been able to read the English the way we read it in all the other examples of this thing happening in the past. So they went to the Supreme Court. And in fact, Afenyo-Markin went to the Supreme Court before the Speaker ruled.
Yes.
Right? He went to seek interpretation for an event that had not yet happened. The Speaker then came and gave his, and you see, I keep wanting to say he gave a ruling. But the lawyers too don't agree on that. Some of them say that he gave a declaration.
But what's the
difference?
Procedural term or in Parliament during their proceeding? What's the term given to the speakers?
It's not everything the Speaker says that is a ruling.
It's a ruling, right?
Sometimes he simply announces something. For example, he will say, we have a quorum.
Okay.
Or we don't have a quorum. That's not a ruling. He's simply stating the fact. After counting the votes, we have a quorum. Right? Counting the heads, we have a quorum. He's just announcing the state of affairs. He's not giving a ruling. And the understanding of a ruling is that you have said something that must now be enforced, right? Some things, so if you are driving along, you are supposed to have a driver's license in order to drive. So if a policeman stops and asks for your driver's license, and you show him the driver's license, and he says, oh, okay, you have one, that means you can drive. Has he made a ruling?
No.
No, he has simply stated the law.
Obvious.
The obvious fact that you are allowed to drive because you have a driver's license. So go ahead. Now, some argue that that is what the Speaker did. He simply stated the obvious, that these people have left their party. That means we have vacancies. Right? He didn't make a ruling that must now be enforced. That's what some people argue. Other people too say, no. It must be enforced. If Cynthia Morrison then walks into Parliament the next day and sits down, someone must throw her out. That would be enforcing what Bagbin said.
Yeah.
So by that argument, it's a ruling. These are the fun things that the lawyers are doing. But me, I'm looking for the common sense. So as soon as the Speaker spoke, Afenyo-Markin ran ex parte to the Supreme Court and said, look, you guys need to injunct Parliament right now. Otherwise, something will happen that will be injurious. Okay, what will happen? Well, these 4 people will not be able to operate as MPs.
Represent their constituents.
And that would disenfranchise their constituents and all of this. So they were making these arguments. The Supreme Court was listening like, none of this applies to us. So there's none of what you are, these things, they don't matter to us. It seems these are your political concerns. And fine, we interpret the law. But wait. You seem to be a little bit lost. The people, were they given a fair hearing? Oh, my Lord, no, they were not given a fair hearing. That's what you should have said. That one we can work with. Okay, they were not given a fair hearing. Then we injunct. This is what happened, right? And then the whole argument about whether their jurisdiction was properly, what's the proper term? Invoked. All of this comes up. But in simple terms, what the Supreme Court did was they listened to the man and found a way of saying something that would apply, right? Then another debate starts. Okay, Supreme Court has made their ruling. Does it apply to us? We are Parliament. Can the Supreme Court make a ruling that affects us? I mean, we are equals. They are not. They don't work. They don't overshadow us. Plenty talk. But I'm sorry. We already have laws. They are already written. In the same way that the law that you can drive with a license already exists. Another one that already exists is that when the court gives an order, you either obey or you break the law. It already exists. It's not after the court gives an order that you go and sit at home and then you think about the order. This order, am I going to obey it or not? And then you decide, you choose whether you obey it, or if you won't obey it, then you do something else. Then someone now has to come and take you back to court. No. When the court gives an order, you obey it. If you don't want to obey it, or if you think that order should not stand, you go to court, the same court. And then you go and seek for it to be
reversed.
That law already exists. So even though a lot of these things are unprecedented, some of them are precedented. Some of them are not confusing. Common sense tells us what to do. So this whole debate about whether what the court has ruled, whether it applies or not, I'm sorry, the law already exists. It applies. Speaker Bagman then came to tell Parliament that I have received the proceedings from the Supreme Court. I've received it. He didn't say, I'm not aware of what they have ruled. He said, I've received it. And after that, he said, there are not enough of us here, so I'm adjourning indefinitely. Now, I mean, that was a great chess move. You have to give Speaker Bagman his due. By making that decision, he put the pressure back on the executive and the judiciary. It's not their problem. The executive wants to do business. Well, then you'd better resolve this matter. As for him, there is going home. The judiciary, if they really, want what they have said to have effect, then they have to do more, because there's more of the case to be deliberated. You ex parte, granted an injunction, and you think that's it. You've stayed everything. Oh well, we too, we've gone home. So what happens next? The pressure is now on everyone, and that was a great chess move by Speaker Bagman. But there are some things you don't debate. The injunction stands. It's common sense. And if you decide to disobey it, you commit what? A high crime.
Contempt of
yeah.
court.
But contempt of Supreme Court is a high crime.
No.
Is it not?
No, but,
So for me, these things are clear. They are. It's there. It's already written. Seeking to debate it, you are wasting everybody's time.
Right.
So now we have this situation where, if we are going by common sense, there has been an injunction filed. But then the next level 2 comes out. Okay, can you file an injunction on something that has already happened? The idea of an injunction is that you are preventing something from happening.
Right.
But if it's already happened, does an injunction have any effect on it? So we go back to our analogy of the driver's license person.
Right.
The policeman has seen your driver's license. You can drive. So he says, okay, continue with what you are doing. Then he gets a call on his walkie-talkie after you've driven off. A call on his walkie-talkie that Ohima's driver's license, it shouldn't allow her to drive. So stop her. But Ohima is gone. How does he stop Ohima? Right? So bring that analogy back to Parliament. The suggestion is that the Speaker has made the ruling. The seats are vacant. So what are you injuncting? The seats are vacant.
Very interesting.
See, so look, all I'll say is this, and I'll wrap up on this. I've talked a lot. Look, if all this back and forth was for a good cause, and I would have patiently endured it.
Yeah.
But don't use it for anything sensible. Even if the NDC became the majority, don't use it for anything sensible.
But they have even started working in, I mean...
What will they do with it? What will they do with it? Stop the e-levy?
No, and also they are petitioning to repeal the regulation that gives rights for mining in forest reserves.
And yes, that will only happen if the NDC is in majority?
No, I mean...
Numbers do matter, though.
No. Will it only happen if the NDC is in majority? Has the MPP not committed to doing the same thing?
I mean, the president, the president gave that same...
Exactly. So, really, I mean, why are we saying that we need the NDC to be majority for that to happen? We don't. Look, if the NDC was going to maybe use their majority to start some impeachment process against Akufo-Addo, that would be of moment. That I would have, you know. But so far,
we're even suggesting that they could use their power to impeach the Chief Justice.
And what's the value of that? The president.
You are the president.
I mean, who else has failed here? So I'm going to wrap up on this. Right. To be perfectly honest, it's all a lot of fighting for something of very little value. Who is in the majority or the minority will make so little difference to our lives in these last few weeks that it's almost not worth fighting over. But they are both ready to die on this hill. And we are going to see even more ridiculousness. Now, Dafe Amakwa has gone to the same Supreme Court that they argue has no jurisdiction over them. He has gone there to seek an injunction of his own from a court that has no jurisdiction over you. Now they are there. What will you use it for? If you think they have no jurisdiction over you. It's just ridiculousness piling up on top of ridiculousness. It's a waste of everybody's time. And there's no value in it. Please, let's follow common sense.
Right, we'll follow common sense. But with the his analogy on the driver's license, it reminded me of a story my friend told me that he was stopped by the police and was asked for his driver's license and he didn't have it. So the police said, oh, park in Ayonko station. And he says, oh, about him Ohm's law. Even the police didn't have any idea of Ohm's law. Ohm's law is nothing relative to driving laws or motorist laws. But okay. Okay.
I just wanted to make some few observations. So, for example, as an officer of the court, it is right that the powers of the Supreme Court cannot be underestimated. You understand? Without doubt, the Supreme Court has lots of powers. But in discussing the powers of the Supreme Court, we have to put it in context. It is not that the powers of the Supreme Court cannot be limited. You understand? In any case, there is a long-established principle of law that says that the courts, when they are making judgments or giving judgments or orders or directives, they should give judgments, orders, and directives that they can enforce. What's the use in giving an order that you cannot enforce? So once you do that, it is actually defeatist on the part of the Supreme Court. So people that actually understand the powers, the workings of the organs of government, they know that this is a defeat on the part of the Supreme Court. To give an order that you cannot enforce. Because that principle is established. Lex Kojic ad impossibilia. The law doesn't contemplate the doing of the impossible. You understand? So this actually should guide the Supreme Court in whatever directions and orders, directives and orders that they give. But apart from that too, I think that suffice to say that this whole business, according to my respectful opinion, has become more or less an academic suit. It's an academic suit. An academic suit is a suit that at the end of it, there is no practical relevance. Honorable Alexander Afenyo-Markins went to court in order to protect some grounds. And today, all the grounds that he wanted to protect, all his worst fears and what have you have now come to pass. So what has the suit become? It's become academic. It's become hypothetical. You understand? And it is theoretical. Now, having said this also, let me also make some observations concerning, the rules of interpretation. Like Kojo and Ama said, they are quite clear. You see, when it comes to constitutional interpretation, the words of the Constitution should not be given stultifying narrowness. If you want to interpret Constitution, you have to actually broaden your mind. However, it must be stated very clearly that over the years, some signposts, some guidelines, have been given as to how these things should be done. And I absolutely concur with Ama and Kojo, when they said when it comes to the law, you don't need to be a lawyer in order to be able to construe or to interpret the provisions of Article 97(1)(g). And the basic principle of interpretation is that when you are going to interpret a document which is legal, that the first rule should be that you should give it its ordinary, basic, grammatical, everyday meaning of the word. Just so now, if you give the words of the Constitution its ordinary, natural, grammatical, and everyday meaning, and that leads to absurdity that the framers of the law could never have contemplated, then you now come in with another, rule which is called the mischief rule. So now, but this is not the argument that I want to make. The argument that I want to make is this. In my clear thinking, I am persuaded, I am convinced that Article 97(1)(g) doesn't need interpretation. But let's assume without admitting that we have to interpret Article 97(1). Which interpretation are we going to give it? Obviously, constructionist view is no longer fashionable. It's not acceptable. What is constructionist view? You want to actually interpret the words of the Constitution, just looking at the words used in the context of the law. But you see, the most appropriate way to interpret modern constitutions is what we call the purposive approach. And the purposive approach says that when you want to get the meaning of a legal document, then you have to go back into time to try to ascertain the intendment, the intention that actually the framers of the law had when they actually made this particular provision. So, for example, you see all the provisions in the 1992 Constitution. Each provision that you see in this Constitution has a history. Including Article 97, it has a history. And people who were part of the Consultative Assembly, some of them are speaking. They said who were part, and this was a mischief that we sought to cure. So, and the mischief was what? To protect the political public morality of Ghana. Political public morality of Ghana. What does this mean? So, for example, they wanted to cure a mischief, said that members of parliament will not wake up one morning or one afternoon and just ditch and abandon their political party in the middle of nowhere in order to pursue other political interests. Because when you look at this same Constitution, it has said it very emphatically that sovereignty resides in the people of Ghana. Right. So the same people of Ghana, they are the constituents. They are those who are being represented in the House of Parliament. So the framers of this Constitution have every interest in protecting the legitimate interests of the Ghanaian people. So, for example, according to my understanding of the spirit behind this particular provision, it was to cure the mischief of actually members of parliament leaving their constituents in the middle of nowhere. Because when you listen to the arguments that have been made, particularly the submission of Professor Kwekwaza, a very renowned Ghanaian constitutional lawyer, who actually, I read his article and he mentioned the intendment behind that. And I disagree with him respectfully. I do not believe. Because when you look at it very carefully, you realize that the framers of the law had every intention in protecting, the interests of the constituents. Mm-hmm. It also had every intention in protecting the interests of the political party on whose ticket that you actually came to parliament before your own interests. So now, but when you look at the argument that some people have been making, it appears or it seeks to protect just the political interests of the said members of parliament, not even their constituents and not even the political party. And that type of view, that way of viewing the Constitution and its provisions, I find it very stultifying, narrowness. Mm-hmm. You can't look at the Constitution now. You have to broaden it. And you have to read the Constitution as a whole. You have to make sure that, the spirit of this particular Constitution is also held in mind constantly when you want to, interpret, the various provisions of our law. So, in summing up, I am actually of the very strong opinion that if we were to give a purposive approach to interpreting the provisions of Article 97, it will come to reinforce and establish tightly, firmly, and flawlessly the position that we are holding, that the intendment of that particular provision was actually to protect the political public. You understand? So that loyalty of members of parliament would actually be to their constituents and not themselves, because it's also about allegiance. If you make a sudden declaration that you do not want to go, you do not want to still be with this party, you want to move to another party, where lies your allegiance? You cannot convince me that in saying that I want to move to this place, you still have your allegiance with me. And like I said here the other time, when it comes to issues of allegiance and loyalty and then what have you, it's either wholly kept or it's wholly sacrificed. There can be 50-50. You can't say, okay, 50, no. It will not be acceptable. So the allegiance of members of parliament is very, very critical. And any person who rises up to say that I want to now go to this political party or I want to run as an independent, then your your allegiance, comes to question. That it means that your allegiance is no longer with the political party. And like Kojo rightly said, assuming that these announcements by these members of parliament were to come, let's say, some 5 months ago or even some 1 year ago, this controversy that we are having as a country will not have it. So it's actually an exercise of convenience. You understand? Because some people think that some political interest has to be protected. If it is not protected, the drawbacks of it will be unmanageable. And that's why they've drawn all of us into this needless, argumentation. So basically, these are some of the decisions.
Thank you for that, lawyer. Amma, let me bring you in.
Yes. I wanted to say that I completely agree about this being an academic exercise. As Kojo was saying, this is me writing down things that I remember. On the paper, I've written rules of natural justice, or the Outram pattern. This is something that I learned in the classroom. As he's speaking, I'm writing it down. I'm writing separation of powers because I can see where it plays out, where they interlink, where they, So yes, it is an academic exercise. Absolutely. For a student of law, I find it exciting, right? I hear somebody speaking, immediately my mind goes there, it's exciting. But Kojo calls it common sense. I would stick with this expression of public morality. And for me also public interest. Because at the end of the day, we are not trying to have a country of legal experts. That's not, I hope not. I hope that's not what we are trying to do. Well, we are having a country where people appreciate the letter and the spirit of the Constitution, and we can have conversations around jurisdiction. To what end is my question? To what end? On the face of it, if you ask me, I would say that I would rather the exercise ends in public interest, even as against political leaders. Let me rephrase that. I would rather all that we are trying to protect is the electorate, the constituents, and not even the political party. I'm sorry to say, I'm not one of those people at this moment in my life that thinks that the political structure as exists now, loyalty to political party, and all of those things are as fantastic as they should be. Right? So for me, if an MP has decided that I don't want to be loyal to my political party, and that's the only reason why he wants to flip-flop, it's not a good enough reason for me either way. Listen, we live in a country where people will decide to abandon ship for personal interests. But let's not also forget that there are those that would abandon ship for principle. We have both. Who is to make the determination? For me, my interest then would be the constituents. Because it is not my place to now start determining the reason for this MP's abandonment of political ship. For me to now decide, is it because he wants to be loyal to his political party, or is it because he can see that perhaps if he flips here, his political fortunes might be better here or there? I'd rather stick with the constituents and look at the issues and decide, in this instance, how would the constituents' interests best be served? That would be my interest. But we should also never forget that at the end of the day, the Constitution remains supreme. The Constitution remains supreme. So for me, in all of this, had I seen some genuineness on all sides, in one, wanting to protect the constituents, in two, wanting to uphold the supremacy of our Constitution, I would be excited. And I would say wonderful, wonderful times in Ghana. This is great for democracy. But I don't see that. All I see are two sides wanting to entrench, wanting to, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I have to say this. I see leaders wanting to hold on to titles in the most laughable ways, where somebody keeps insisting on I'm a majority leader. Right? For every interview, for every public encounter, for every, like, child. Thank you, Kujo. Why? You're being majority leader. What would it do for me? Or any Ghanaian for that matter? I'm sorry, but who cares? At the end of the day, you've been majority leader for how long? What did it do for anybody?
I mean, Council mentioned or touched on the issue of ego.
I think somebody needs to calmly tap somebody and ask him. When I was just entering university, I was having a conversation with a friend, and she calmly asked me a very interesting question. I'll tell you after the show. She said, Amma, this is that you're holding on to. Why? Is it going to take you to heaven? I think somebody needs to ask him the same question. This majority leader title, really, in all of this confusion, is that what he cares about? In all of what's happening. So, I mean, the childishness is ridiculous. You know, the exhibition of legal prowess, it's ridiculous.
Right.
Can we get to the part where the Ghanaian is at the center, the heart and center of the conversation? Right. I'm waiting for that.
I absolutely agree. This morning, Comrade Kwesi Pratt made a profound, he said something really profound, and it has to do with the fact that the Supreme Court, he made reference specifically to the Supreme Court and the fact that they make decisions with the collective interest of the people. And this brings me to you making reference to the preamble of the Constitution, where it says that the principle that all powers of government spring from the sovereign will of the people. So that means the three arms of government need to operate with the collective interest of the people. And that's what we are asking for. We couldn't ask for anything less.
Kwesi's ruling didn't make sense to me.
We couldn't ask for anything less.
It didn't make sense to me
it's
because
interesting.
in any way, shape or form, the will of the party supersedes the will of the people.
We are in trouble.
We are violating the Constitution.
We are in trouble.
Yeah.
We are in trouble.
But it's quite interesting that they talk about the constituents being hard done by not having representation. But let's talk about the people of Sal. They were denied representation for 4 years. And what happened? Nobody spoke about it because they didn't deserve representation.
We spoke about it, but nothing happened.
We keep speaking about it, Sohima.
I mean, in terms of within Parliament, nobody filed a petition or stood their grounds to flex muscle in that conversation. Nobody did that, but it's quite unfortunate, and I hope that we come to a resolve as soon as possible. But
I think that as for resolution there, I think that we as a people, we have to gather as much as possible of public opinion against, the behavior of public officials. I think that would be one of the most fundamental ways to resolve this problem. We have to gather public opinion against what they are doing.
But do they listen? That's the question.
No, but if the people on whose interest or in whose interest that they are in Parliament begin to speak and tell them that, look, this drama, this theatrics, stop it, and let's actually, and like Amma rightly said, and put the Ghanaian people at the center and trust of all, this conversation. I think that would also, help resolve the current impasse.
Councillor, I beg to differ. That's a viable option, I mean, but people have combed the streets of Accra to protest against something that is devastating our country, and they were arrested for making their voices heard. We have morning shows, we have, discussions on TV.
I'll tell you what Kwame Nkrumah said. I'll tell you what Kwame Nkrumah said on this issue. You see, Kwame Nkrumah, who knows, who once said that there is no force on earth, that there is no dominion on earth that can overcome the sovereign will and the determination of the people. So if people are speaking, and then they appear to be ignored, it means that their voice, they haven't gathered it, they haven't coordinated their voice. Once they coordinate their voice, there is no power on earth that can overcome it. No.
Right. Yeah. So we are the solution to our problem.
Yeah. but we also even, but whilst you know, whilst we actually call out, you know, public officials, I think that it's also useful for us to also talk about the citizens. It's like we are neck deep in this problem. Because in this whole, you know, ego battle and then what have you, it has divided the Ghanaian society into two. And people actually stubbornly hold onto their side of it. So it's not even about the interest of the generality of the people. It's now about, you know, partisan, you know, people have held strongly to it. And then I think that to some extent too, you know, there may be some justification for it in the sense that as people, you know, we have to always, you know, remember that our primary interests as a people, including the arms of government, should be to the Constitution. The Constitution, that is what should actually get our primary interest. Then interest to political parties becomes secondary. But where as a people move away from our primary interest to the Constitution and hold allegiances and interest to our political parties, our ethnicity, and then what have you, it means that we are actually, you know, in a bottomless pit. And for us to find our way, it will be difficult, if not impossible. Yeah.
All right, thank you. I think this section, or I mean, this session has been very, very insightful, and we have delved deep into the matters. But let's move on to our second topic for discussion today, which is quite interesting. Very, very, very interesting. What I know is that after writing BEC, you sit home for a while, awaiting results. Results come, there's placement, and then you go to school. But this time around, the narrative has changed very, very miraculously. Government has set a date for students to be in school, but BEC candidates, or those who wrote the BEC exam, are still home, no results, no placement, but government says you should go to school. I think the date is on the 5th of October, 5th of November, 2024. Kojo, I know you have a lot to say on this, and I think this very subject matter has people are talking and is linking it to you know, the failure of the free SHS system. What do you make of it?
A failure of the free SHS system. I like to be fair. Certain things worked with the free SHS system, but many things didn't. So this is one of the things that didn't work. This double, triple, track ridiculousness. All right, okay. Not a lawyer, but I'm going to quote the law. So this is the Children's Act 1998, right? And I'm going straight in to section 2, 1 and 2. Section 2:1 says, the best interest of the child shall be paramount in any matter concerning a child. And then 2 says, the best interest of the child shall be the primary consideration by any court, person, institution, or other body in any matter concerned with a child. You talked about the purposive interpretation of law. You ask yourself, what were they trying to say? One said, the interest of the child shall be paramount in any matter concerning the child. But they didn't feel it was enough to stop there. They felt it was necessary to add another clause that says, or section, that says, every court, every institution, individual, they decided to state all the different kinds of people who might one day come and read this and say, oh, yeah, stated them all and said, all of you, in every decision you are making, the interest of the child comes first. So this is a law that basically determined that in all things, our children first. Okay. Are we sure that this new timetable is in the interest of the child? Or is it somebody's desire to realign to some old timetable we used to have? Cui bono? Who benefits from this arrangement? Who? Teachers? Schools? Who benefits? Children? I'm going through the list. I'm not finding anybody who is going to gain from this. So who is benefiting? Is it some one secretary be sitting in a corner who was bored and took the timetable and said, I can make this look neater? Who is benefiting? I'm baffled by this. And you are going to put the whole nation through, I mean, inconvenience is not the right word here. Do you have children? Okay, you're lucky.
Not yet.
Look, when your children are on vacation, not only do you have to buy more food, more electricity, more data, more everything, more of everything, but you also have to make sure that your child's brain is not rotting, sitting behind a TV 24/7. You have to find activities for this child to do. Take them out. And you see, unfortunately, your child is in the free SHS system, where double and triple track means that children are getting less contact hours with their teachers. Learning. Look, do you know that those who are about to go to SHS 3 have only spent 1 year in senior high school? They are about to go to SHS 3, but they completed SHS 1 and 2 in a year. Is that in the interest of the child? So we are just willy-nilly violating the law that we wrote for ourselves to protect the most vulnerable among us. We are violating it, but we can't even identify who benefits. I'm sorry, that's the mark of a non-thinking nation. And you see, the ripple effect, you can't even start to calculate it. These kids will end up in university very soon, completely unprepared. And before you know it, they are doctors and engineers and contractors. And you think these potholes are bad? Wait for these kids to come and start constructing roads. You think dialysis problems and kidney failure, these things are bad. You think medical negligence is bad. Wait for these free SHS doctors to start treating your children, your parents, your children in hospital. Then you can come back and tell me Nana Tuaso. You see, we have taken the entirety of our future. And I mean, I can't even say we tossed it away, because tossing something away requires some deliberate action to toss. We have dropped it. We've dropped our future. And this is the most, I mean, I've never imagined that Ghana would be teetering on such a dangerous precipice, where there's nothing to look forward to, there's nothing to go back for. Like we are just in a limbo of failure. And our children are the biggest victims here. I want somebody to just point out to me who is benefiting from this, so I can get it. But until then, it's yet another ridiculous decision made by people who don't think, who certainly don't think about the children, who are supposed to be the priority in every decision we make.
Right.
But they've made it. They've announced it. Then ahead of November. 5th of November. Everybody go to school. If you don't have your results, don't worry. Go to school. Which school? So you don't have them in place. Don't worry. Go to school. This is idiocy, and we should not be comfortable with it.
Right. Thank you, Kojo.
Well, I mean, I would call it exactly what you called it. This, for me, is one of the clearest indications of the failure of the free SHS system. For me, the only positive, Kojo says there are some positives. The only positive with the policy is the concept behind the policy itself. Free education for young people is a great, wonderful thing. So, such that, I mean, an education for me is not just about becoming a lawyer or becoming, social mobility, social, success. No, those are not the issue. It's also about a responsible citizen, an informed citizen, an educated citizen. It's about training. It's about the quality of life. It's about our ability, because once we know better, we do better. It's our ability to sustain ourselves. you know. And so for me, education is at the core of our very existence as a people, as Ghanaians. And so, I mean, Osajifo talked about it over and over and over again. The concept of free education is a wonderful thing, where every child, regardless who gave birth to you, where, how, can go to school and gain for yourself education so you can make...
She actually did. But it fits in the context, though. It fits in the context.
So you can make something of yourself, right? And so that is the great thing about, you know, the free SHS concept. However, beyond that, everything else is shambolic. It wasn't thought through, as in properly thought through. It wasn't executed well. When I say it wasn't executed well, I think I give too much credit. Where do we start from in terms of the execution? How can we go lower than it wasn't executed? Help me out here. Because it was a complete sham. And I've always said that. We knew the numbers. It's not, I think Kojo has said this too, again, back to his common sense, you know, analogy. You know the exact number of students that have left JHS. It's not something you have to dream up or work or do anything to get to. These are actual numbers. Actual numbers that the system can generate. You know them.
Yeah.
We have schools that were built by the previous administration that remain completed but unused for political reasons. So we insist on a free SHS when we haven't created the capacity to absorb the numbers and the capacity for execution. So who are we fooling at the end of the day? If you claim you are implementing a policy to help the people, and you do it the way you've done it, the food is bad, there are no classrooms, there are no teachers, there are no textbooks. The system itself, how it runs, the way we've always known the school clock, it doesn't work like that anymore. That's bad. You can't afford to pay WAEC. Therefore, results are not marked on time. There's a ripple effect for those in the next level, the SHS level. Complete confusion. Who have you helped with your free SHS? Who? Have you helped the students? Have you helped the teachers? Have you helped the administrators? Have you helped parents? Who have you helped? So you insist on free SHS. Who benefited? Who? Parents are crying. My child goes back to school in a week or two. I don't even know if he passed the exam. Let's start from there. I don't know if he passed the exam or not. Somehow, I'm expected to, because of the system that we run, buy provisions, you know, get him ready, and take him to where? I have a date for when he has to report to school, but take him to where? Did he get the school that he chose? Did he get his first choice, his second choice, his third choice? Is he going to be a boarder? A day? It's just, it's crazy.
It is
the level of mismanagement is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And you have public service providers, again, I keep choosing my words, who will come on TV and defend this, who would speak to this and insist on go. Go where? With what? It's crazy. And so, I mean, it's unbelievable, the level of the levels of mismanagement, and this is what brings me back to what I said with the initial issue, the fact that when we choose our leaders as Ghanaians, we have to be minded, we have to be mindful. It's beyond the black and white. This goes beyond what is said. I think it's time we ask questions. It's time we demand again and again, how? How do you intend to implement this, your wonderful policy?
Right.
How do you intend to do it? But even more so, can you show me your heart? I know it's difficult to ask that question of politicians, but can we try? Can we try and demand for a bit of heart? You know, that we are shown that these leaders have us at heart and they will do right by us. As it stands now, I don't think I'm alone. I've spoken to a lot of people who say that the public school system as we have it is a waste of everybody's time. We are just enriching, you know, private entities, right? Which takes us into other conversations. So we are weakening all the public services that we have. In this short, you know, number of years, we have literally crippled all the public service agencies that we have, including education. Who wants to take their child through this?
No one.
A couple of years back, you had to go and queue at the stadium and sleep at the stadium because you're looking for placements for your child. It's just ridiculous. Absolutely. I mean, we can do better by Ghanaians, but we can do better for ourselves by, because it's election focus, voting for the right people who will show us some hearts.
Right. I wish we had, you know, that time to extend this conversation, but let me come to lawyer to wrap it up for us on this subject matter.
Well, I think that the supreme and the strategic interest of the people must be the thrust of all government policy, including policy on education. And then I agree with Kojo and then Ama absolutely that whenever you are going to formulate a social or a public policy, in every social or public policy formulated, it has people who benefit from it and people who lose from it. So the Kojo question stands, who are the beneficiaries of this policy? As for the losers, we know, the children, we know that they are losers. And parents, you know, we know that they are losers. But who are the beneficiaries of this particular policy? So my take on this is that for long, we have held the grievous doubts about, you know, the policy itself. And some of us have actually had cause to see, just like Amma has said, that it was not carefully thought through. It was just a policy that was formulated in order to win an election. You understand? But as to its practicality in terms of implementation and what have you, it was actually left to, you know, some devices. For example, let's look at this policy of free SHS and what it has actually done, you know, to the children of Ghana. And here again, let me also refer to the Children's Act. You know, this policy, according to my view, it has actually made the Ghanaian child more vulnerable. It has made the Ghanaian child very susceptible to the clutches of ignorance and disease. Why? With this kind of policy, just tell me what kind of children we are going to churn out, and then how they are going to, you know, view society, reality, and nature. What kind of view? And you know that world view is very, very important, and it's formed when you have a purposive system of education. You understand? But it appears that this particular one was just a campaign tool that actually was meant to win. And I agree with some, you know, people, including Kwame Nkrumah, who actually once said that you need a socialist to implement a social program. When you actually have a capitalist who wants to implement a socialist program, it's going to fail. It's predictable. Its failure is very, very predictable. Because in terms of the capitalist, it is about the margins of profit and then what have you. But the socialist is actually at the heart of the socialists. The socialists believe that, look, this is what should be done. And they feel so strong about it. So clearly, when, you know, I drive around, listen to radio, and some people say that, hey, what this free SHS has done to me, when my husband died, because of it, I couldn't take care of my children. With this. Right. So clearly, I do not think that the free SHS policy has helped this country. And then those people that actually hold the view that is the best policy and what have you, I believe they have to rethink again. Because when you are actually making or formulating policy, you have to thoroughly consider the forward and the backward leakages and implications of that policy. And I believe that this particular policy, the forward and the backward, leakages and implications were not carefully thought through, and that is why it has become an absolute disaster.
Right. Thank you very, 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 very much. It's been an insightful evening, insightful session here on the show. This has been Election Focus, and I'm grateful to our panelists for, bringing insight to the topics for conversation today. Thank you so much, Kojo Yangson. Thank you, Amma Pratt. I think I like the Otua name. I don't know why, it's nice. And thank you, Council, for joining us this evening. Everything that we've discussed here tonight is just a snapshot of the numerous challenges that we face here in this country. My name is Ohima Echanjikun, but I urge you to stay informed, stay engaged, as we will always do well to bring you critical matters and discuss the matters which absolutely matter to you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Truly African.
So was it Roger Martin? No.
I say, any penny.
I say, any penny.
Ja, Aquasia, we no trust in chief attack was it. Now, what 10 months did this one?
So that was your money, did this one, so that you attack was it. So now, was your nation did this one.
The Ebefia. If Ramen to my branch in Nansen, woman, Messon, my catch, and there be almost no farming to my mamma.
So if you have a real so full, a brass for friends and the gentleman, then send a woman, that's what I can say. You know, I'm on the only thing we see, so proud. The rest of the
I shall mean, I am so what my same. War night and some way to see him to a jazz on one so bad. But to apron what's Ghana for the young.
So, Chairman, so BBC, but still, I don't the city of 70. That means that what the problem, Sabaya, Ghana for the 2 of our men, or see what comes, and then now, definitely. Or
by a crater, me remove running some more kind. Mean kind see, Nanso, and some woman walk Canada. Some parts are crater, Neniswa, any dear, and nature and capacity Sagana. I said, there, by I can't say, this one, so it's in the hours of it. Crater, a buyer on one year of the already, we don't know where we are there. And so somebody said they were just so and I didn't reach my social media and my say, say, Kwana, social media, we said because the Sagana, my Officia was walk pro no baby, obey she be any penny be see and to young. Said yes, chrono. Go be so mad dainty, and some of kind walking in actually. And so, I also said, we will with your penny, pro. The people who see me are say young trapper, the most of our kind as a bit, see you now walk once a month. And the most of our catcher will be I got out there, children to say. Okay. That's a man, you're crooning in our better sans, and maybe a woman who said they had Nipan Muninara. Or so, okay, but best I'm a corner I want to be. I won't say, Nema, done a phone, FM. Now, and this
The Gobasa Ufanipa do no work and monsoon see and Twaba and Twaba there. Not Gidia woman, your criminal as I don't know.
Okay. Now, Pastor Fanipa do no monsoon say young Twaba, then Twaba there. Let us say a brown, sir, some of us in the air. Let us summon you.
A bumpire say, I'm on your criminal, woman, Janina, you be who know the air. No, okay, yeah, born a devil, yet me, I am as some beginning Kosoa Bagana. Says,
near my air, never Emma was Roma. Somebody I become Magana, my acquaintance.
Could you dare the American channel say? Me nana no.
See, Roger Martin, 240 over catch one say, wouldn't you nana? Nana Penu.
Who go pay me via Bremy? I didn't in a memoir.
Was we call up with Gabriel.
Fire na me ball said when you saw the any crater. Bet me a church Mama Ghana phones who said, could you tell Martin dear me bar? Saying I'm assuming the 5 be.
See the 5 or letter what you not and I know some of 4. Sir, could you tell Martin dear? But this one did I be some of the Ghana man. Saying some American in Sabaya, better one for soon. Somebody to my Ghana my
Sadia and Quabi I can know. Ebia de woman need their walk and enrich him and Nipanti as ye.
Said one of the canon. And some one class who look at a carry. So that would say it's been rich among 40 as ye.
As a crater, dear, the American idiot. Not just the money who knew I will crater him.
Was a crater that the walking kind of crazy. Not that a man who everything will crater him.
And yet, would you when you upon for more money, the room money paying auntie?
Roger Martin was this a bit like a talking candy. More money, the Manu question, not gonna Maya soon in auntie.
You know when you saw the hour deba.
Not gonna make the woman who saw the hour deba.
Nanuntin and Ma woke as a water to one hour.
Also, Nuntin Maya as a water to now this one who wanted to Magana Magina at somebody jump to Bona was a bit at two summer.
Sansa can Nipan and Echo Twaba.
Was like Nesabik as a woman. Ghana mine and Peru never Twaba.
Omotia say and ye are dreaming near whom baby.
So Ghana mine and 270 last year. And the dream never Twaba.
When I am a do one I in I ban near Betcha, Mania can't dear can't cheer me.
So that Sabi Una say, if you Abayaba, Ubia, Ubia, Nasu, Abetiano, Ubia, so the mission actually.
Benyan Zuban and next I am young coach, Siam.
So, Biaba, the person in Usta, and the next I am young coach, Samuel.
And so Nina, dear May Penny Gun a year.
Or since I'm on the WhatsApp, did not the open, Babu Pet and the Ghana, my canco.
Empire na me boss said the Ghana phone na be die di se wono ne ba of Ghana be koso no ye to abanoma no na ye hunu kwan o de be fa so Ghana be ye
so the five policy say we depend na be GDA onu ba ko mu say wono ba Ghana man be koso na Ghana man en to ba no na Ghana man say be enye na sumdwe enye na be mfra
on be ya sa so dia no a cheche mama nipa ni nyina hunu
be ya sa so dia no a cheche ma nipa nyina ati oni so ni hunu a wo de ba no
to say me sure there or dada message to us the amano no nko to us ne
ozo na olu say me sure there wo dada Robert say research down what to us na Ghana for my to us man say ya e be to ba ma ho
ni na ne say na ho brase no on to us sa
to us say ni na wo ni wo fa no ho brase to us sa
wanon travel bia e mo wanon travel bia
ozo wanon travel bia hwe no wanon travel bia
one yes, sir. Me person obey yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Obey yes, sir.
Now the church has seen Magana frontier.
Now, so we want to show you now. What did you get him? Church Magana Magina and see.
The mum Yamine Sihne, Yamine Penebe.
So don't catch what I say. You did it. So the Yamine Sihne, Yamine Pen, as the Bayo. Good.
Seven previous are Ghana Maimu. Then I did a wabro. A year then, Victosu, any Liman, Echo, Twab Adie, Ma Liman, Timothy Victosu. Let's just say, Yena, Yempe or money. Seven previous. Meaning what you or send Kenya Kupari Cho, Sebekio Manasumaye. You send India or and no matter do away. And your Ghana Hankwa. Just say, a man mine, ebe friend, Befano, Boko Yajumama woman. Now you will never say ya. A yet day and a yapuno. Enchanko Nina Santia. Say a Santimena a kaboom, say a trauma you rea. Just a no, na a Koreano, ya you can't debiano. A Sante, yen kamum, and my yard, Intina Naya Bray, and the Raba. You rap Precopeno. This a minim say, Sa Santimena kaboom. Now you trauma you rea. Baba man penny.
But you, I got my cafe quitting. I said, you will get out, you know. And the mechanism quitting. Yes, a number. Yes, and the practice and that's side of that.
Yo.
Enti yada yeni acha maten ase.
Yo.
One die mini dada wo manhia.
Yo.
Matra manhia kakra nti one die ne mpanifu die. Ni wo mu nyina wo manhia.
Yo.
Nan ka wo mra na ye mesisa constitution no mai.
Yo.
The constitution ne die yada die adwuma die adwuma me yene na emwa Ghana ba biara. Yes san. Eduru ba bia President nipa ba ko a wo tu aye do no ko point agi.
Yo.
The president ko point agi PDA, agi pi one to president John.
Yo.
Ya no jimu no obato. Wo point the military commander. Wo point where they say chief justice. What no point they say our judges no ha mani ale no mu kan asema no. Asema no president be kwa bi di constitution ne yare. SSC sister constitution. Na dia make children say ya sheda ya himfo ya kia no atum ya nya politics okay ya say o hine ya politics o hine ya politics no tue ni pa mo prince mo gazette ya say ya hine ya ntra ho ne ya hwe ni pa so ya hwe mo so say ya nka de ha ya nkrofo ya nka de ha say ya kuro ade no mo ha ya politics enfie na wo kuro na yani ya ti ho dada ya ye betransie ahwe o man so ahwe yie mu wanye o ma yi a musuo ni sawara kedi adu corruption katasi share adia essay Ghana ni yanyi sa nyema ye firi ho a bibien ho ye Ghana ha be bibien ho ye Ghana be agudie awofom ibrebe aden na yenye mani na yebeto obuase na wo kono ngun na wo ho ne wo na de ye dia fa asase ni ne yese mfudie ya ye ti ho Ghana fo ye ninketenkete ye wo abuja bai ne ye hwe wo nu mu a ye nim se wo nu na ya de ne ye hwe wo nu ma ne wo ba ne ye mo besa no ma bedu ya mo besa no ma bedu me ba ye galamsey application mempam ye nko abda bebe aduonu ana aduasa kora ba this the bam say fako timaka ke di say wonya sa application bi na commission de ba won fa manim enfam banim kora on fa mesi akora me ba to menu apanini o mo si yam peganam say wo ha mesuma ba do a ne ba kire so mai eye kuafo mai kuya ne dia to mai yen ne di for me my best farmer municipal best farmer na me my best farmer me metra honi en say galamsey be sa sada enunti se yewa la ntematina ba na wo cancer mpasei na wo de beboa na wo kono betima da constitution yare ya mayen adenti na yamwa no na mu amudi akire na me ka kire mu nye so tri so che mo nye die mo ye katembu ani bi ni mu nyina se de fensofu amudi ani mu nyina mago fensofu amudi ani mu nyina mago mo nye na mu hu se aba na ba ye die
nipa epre ayi nyina no ade a wo unim se ye ma of mind bia ho to no e kese e export uka China uka America uka Netherlands uka bia ye wo mutimi ya wo muton wo abontin eno na ma wo dollar no eno na ma wo foreign exchange na mutimi de ye ayi ye de ejina koko de de be timber ye nam 1.2 billion 1.2 yeah Ghana yeah cocoa you can't nipa miensa the produce cocoa we are 70%. Yeah free mu 10 billion. Netherlands we produce bean back over. Netherlands in 25 billion from cocoa. Yatina 1.2 billion yeah back table. Papa ya daroma o say me say in fabo so me miensa e fa fie miensa yen free 270 million and for 1 billion. Ono ne beti me dance in 18 months. Now you are hitting 1 billion. You say you me papaya and say obeba for the export. Someone take African free continental trade, you know. Akofa ba say Alan wa made president. Ni nim ye obesomu abeye seduma no. E ho na export ketia no. E wo Africa kesika ko be nyina afa na wo ko ba bi akotua e friend duty anase wakani nyina abo e na dwempa e wo ne timunti odi abagana ene e de da ho ono no yi ne hu free mo no sa me ma ne me de se me throw forward man no a na ye abreshemu a me wo 24 hour edebe ena ice ena first year mama ena nana apai adwina identity mo na me de sabe ye Ghana gu we bo me asante ni first asante no so pa ade mimi nim ne say ye opa de akokotoko enya na bro Opa photo ni nyina megu ho ada ayi try to no obi e ka so obeto ama ne nkoni na yen de ye se ye kota obi ati na ya to ababa se ne se hu ye opa de aba e no papa yi ye wo no wo mansia o tena mansia ni wo buku bi a e ma minim history kese ni papa e ka ho ufo ni papa no Dr. Chamatia o ye culture center oya culture center ode wan na ye enyoma ode church o culture center ni na nata be go ni ono no agudie ena omo ene ye culture center ona na ye ma enti ni no me ye me hu bi ye enye anado eni nse aland ni no ena me pala ena me nse obetimi aye enti me de amanfo de metimi aka kire mo enu ana me ka kire nanan de ne wo mutike se ekoba se enipa ya etro bebrebe obi be di president na wo pe bibi a ekwan be na abefa so akosa president o de bodi bi a wo pe fa free number 1 wo no ekwan be na abefa so akọ e ka kire wo se wo pe obi ato abama na tuma alance
na the first time I'm say another buy for a lawyer. It is and catch that is you see what 3 arms of government. There is the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. These 3 arms of government, they so. And by saying, the people constitution said, we executive for you free parliament. Publicly, that's the first publicly. I'm saying only the first person. Matt said, what's all that constitution over share once a summer. You have society Ghana constitution or man, the other concern. And then you have the third part. This is no yeah, but it is your economy gives opposite US Britain, one 2-party systems. One and common the profile Sadnema with Naba. You give a 1-party state. So you at least 3 years. So they are we say you say yeah, and you to yes the beaver got down with my you don't pilot. Now you're to Chicago.
Zero who at Apple cool. Zim that baby with tobacco on myself.
I'm not saying if I'm pretty sure as a damn what it knows. It is a work and one else for you. Maybe I learned to work at Donna for you, which is my Nora or not between you what rough or mark out of something. That you will be our cannot my kind as it's be a news that you can make the news.
Police is at Japan, some letters on my beginning.
So, crazy, you could see here. Na udio na so nkani kwenya mata so kwa wasafin uji tu hidi na chala so fa no wa kwa na ba na onye zio be come the home one so uji tu hidi na ka so fa no ba na o mai no it is the dream ni so me kwa me kwa be is na jiji ka kwa ye nya ye no na me amezu
on peut de mana fa na ko
no se kenya pa no fa ko no ko so
na ta su the Bible years. Say the names not on over. No one
Zio, I'm out for Chief St. Martin, what I'm number 30. Now you need a Advanto, it is you hold my Madonna. Yeah, now you can't have a cook.
Yes, Mama, MVP about that. What do you
It's your no baby, it's your bomb fire. Say, no president Kodia, or no, Odi actually. As I say, a buano, and maybe be a cost. You don't know. See a share campaign, I see. The paper about and then the first presidential candidate original CM to about Ruma. We make sense. So my mom for a woman yet 1 which my man of life.
Kayifo Barbara Castle was a poor amantem was ready camphor. Manage Alan ho papa na juma ya oyinti. Ni akasa meba. Na friend Dr. Tutu Wahin. Wadi no dance a chire me say wonim amanoni bi aya wo kan kwete se Alan. Me so me de nya me pene no kwedi. Wo kan kwete chire me ampa chawo. Me bo fukura me sifom. sanso abe minister bebree wɔ Ghana ɔbaa yɛ ne nnwuma pa a ɔbɛyɛɛyɛ a yɛn nyinaa yɛdi ho adanseɛ ɛna ɛne adwiri sɛ ɔsɛ ɔpem kɔ n'anim sanso bɛrima deɛ ɔyɛ adeɛ a ɔsɛ ɔkɔ anim deɛ yɛsɛ ne sɛ na ɔma n'abɛmu mu ɛsan sɛ nim sɛ ɔwɔ nipa ɛde ma Ghana man ɛnkaka mmabunu a ɛwɔ Ghana ɛsan sɛ ɔne deɛ nkaka ɔno nko a deɛ Awurade bɛyɛ no ara na wayɛ no no nanso na nso wadwene Ghana man ho na wadwene nkɔlaa a wɔba ho nti na wɔyɛ n'adwene sɛ ɔba na ɔbɛboa sɛ Awurade ne nananom gyina n'akyi na sɛ de ma no a ɔbɛboa Ghana man ama Ghana man atu mpɔn deɛ deɛ kaka a yɛka kyerɛ no sɛ ɔmpem kɔ n'anim na ɔnsa n'akyi na ne dwumadi a wɔredie nyinaa no nso no ɔnkyerɛkyerɛ mu ma amanfoɔ nyinaa nte deɛ ɔba a wɔbɛtumi ayɛ aboa ma Ghana man atu mpɔn mesa yufuru nso ɛwɔ hɔ ɔka nso a ɛbɛtie no kɛsɛ no wabrɛ ɛsan sɛ nipa baako wɔkyi Ghana man nyinaa ɛsɛ adeɛ asa deɛ aka a mɛka kyerɛ ne sɛ baabi biara a wɔrekɔ biara no ɔnkyerɛkyerɛ ne nsɛm mu ma nipa ntena n'ase ɛnim sɛ asanteman deɛ ɛgyemi deɛ wayɛ ama asanteman kyɛ ɛbɛkae no yɛsɛ Nyankopɔn nananom sɛ ɔmo nka no ne ne mpanyimfoɔ ne ne dwumadi a wɔadi nyinaa ɛnyɛ doo nkwatetena ahoɔden ahyɛ mu ma nyansa nimdie mpagya nkɔsoɔ sika animonyam ɛne yɛsɛ ma ne sɛ ne dwumadi a wɔadi nyinaa no ɛnyɛ doodoo yɛnkyɛkyɛ ne nsɛm yɛnsɛ sɛ Awurade nananom pa a Awurade akafa ne ho no ɛno ara ne bɛbɛ ɛni sɛ nkunimdie bɛtwa yɛ ne bia ɛda no ase sɛ ɔno nso wɔɔkɔ na waka yɛ no nso afa a abɛkyɛ ɛde Nyankopɔn nananom sunsum na ɛta ne kyi sɛ ne dwumadi a wɔadi biara no ɛnyɛ nkɔsoɔma no
na santeman kuro akɛseɛ no a ɛhyehyɛ yɛn nyinaa yɛwura ase no yɛa ne yɛhunu deɛ ɛrekɔ soɔ titiriw baabi a this is assembly no wɔ no yɛni hɔ ni ɔsrɛ sɛ ɔba a wɔno deɛ ɔyɛ santeni ba ɔfira santeman mu deɛ ɔmfa nansi fam na ɔmu ni hɔ ni sɛ bɛyɛ den bɛyɛ nwan sɛ wobɛyɛ adwuma wɔ kuro bi so ɔhɔ yɛ manhene kuro this is assembly wɔ hɔ nanso yɛnyɛ biribiara wɔ hɔ na kyerɛ sɛ ɛba saa asɛ nananom koraa anu yɛn ho ɛfiri sɛ ɔmo nhyɛ da mfa buo ma nananom nti ɛpɛ sɛ ɛma woteɛ sɛ woyɛ santeni ba deɛ ne Nyame aboa ma wo bɛyi na woayɛ santeni deɛ na ɛsɛ sɛ ɔhwɛ asanteni
Metuma no, metuma. If you want the future, down. Vote for him. NPP for your job. One was a cover. Nyamula, ọtí akọnyam sọ ẹ pata nù. Má bẹ̀rẹ̀. Ẹni tí yẹ kábùkù. Yáyẹ bíà ọ̀nù àdẹ́kọ̀ àfẹ́ wọn náà.
Mama bebre Yesu zomo nyadumanya. Omo nyadumanya. Ala do ba o de aduma baba.
Ala ko change e be se so man no mu. Aha man nkwa so. Ya mejeska ya bibi ya ndi. Ya mejeska ala ko change. Ubi e ni ya pa we mra ni ya si ya nwese. Ghana be se sa na e sisa. Sa na ya pe no ya be system. Ya system. Na ti ala wa ya be adesi e agande mo ya ni ati ya be adesi e ya ni ati ya be adesi denja mi ta papa na shi say me person vision be kan ji person vision em pie person papa ro ade papa bi maye eno anta mi ta na chi MPP one na ma MPP tira ye aso MPP for who say papa ne power ni mu eti ni ati awon ya se ya da se o very ma do e champo 2020 na ka say Alan Tremate ko for time no Sata makufu ado tamu onne na semba. Adamu dia ni adi nti moto ala ato akre.
Ajumawura.
ɛnam katasesa de kura yɛyɛ ni no kura genti ɛma yi na sinsan because of sika Nana Akufo-Addo ɛne Gabriel Tebako ɔmo die babo nyamu ɔmo die nti ɔmo sɛ ɛnya de ɔmo baba ala na aba wa baba tutu nyama ama bibi ɔmo ada hɔ ɛne nti ɔmo yi ala na sinsan ɔdɔ ma Obiya ti bisi saya asiya na ala simrabi wamrabi abi pinya di sawa braso abe wa kwanja biya sonya enso ta kan ti mempa yaka abrabom yala ba wabaya ya kwanya ma ami e ho atọ ya ti na akọ ala ya tu aba ma la gas say MPP o NDC o ya tu aba mo bia bia ya atuma bo ya tra sa ya kwa ya na ya toilet kura ni toilet ya be ko so kura bi di ko mu a efi na akọ ya sesaw ya tu aba bia ya ba tu ama ala
Microphone in Africa, NDC, MPP, the human in Africa, Afro. Awurade alanka so se asie wa.
Sabi offensive damba. Ne we ne fata mo.
Nani we say my system.
Ye kaje da na ye ho kire ye edie ntra dada no mu da
Ghana for can call and the size of Tumano. Open for the new pop. Winning the election, no matter what you do, MPP, NDC, you are cake. The monarch butterfly is here, the general is going to fly, elephant is going to die, the eagle with the umbrella is going to die. Enough of the propaganda, enough of the deceit. Alan Chamatin is the only personality that can transform this Ghana. Alan, they say, Nyama, politics, Abagana, and yes, dear Dano, one fan to her if we talk. Ye dear Gloria and Tuatua, Alan, as yet, and ever. Bobia, Botuma, Alaman, Tona. Ninsem or the Abano, Utiene Prime or the Abano, was Transia Tronum Pancra, Obebua, Ama Ghana, I am one toy. Ever you maya, and you maya, any Juma, any Empire, but to say no, Ebenyajuma, Nina, Alan. Because Alan by any Ghana than Akumaho, and Gina Penmufia, Nala German, Sebayamian, Obeaba, Nala German, or Sebayamian.
Does it make sense for a party to say that some candidate is going to spoil my vote? What is your vote? Which is your vote? Freezer bemo na sa vote no. Egu freezer bemo. U vote gu freezer mo a koye na ka na hye. Edu abato so a na wa kom no wadi. Na vote no eye he for dia Ghana for dia. Ghana for ne be decide ni a ondi vote no e den ebe ma no.
Alakojo chamate otusu butterfly. Afafra doro. Na do we wiase ane se. Diabedi ensu biala. Afafra doro maneba. We biology now say cross pollination. They can cross pollination. Afafra na meduaba so. Afafra na meduaba so. Ansa na osoro nya biadi. Na lipa so tibia. Ya di chiyesi so. Eti afafra de na on fa so ro. Enya asam keto. One district one for to de ba ya. Awoya nti akufaro definition koma maami o hini iftikuladu ama ya toka aya basaro sakopa alachamati acha se o me fa no to aso toboy o chamati jira ha ba o bia jira ha maama jira ha ani monyamu nyansamu ba ye dida ba no so no president
thank you.
Yeah, man, ninda ho. Na obia enkai se. Edidida. Ye beto aba. Ubehwe na sika esisi yedi mpuntuo nyina. Yedi asie. Ye beto aba ni asati dipwe. Ni edi bomu sikatuo. Ubegana yasisa pesticides ni asisa nkrante ni asisa mbentwa ni edi famusu yadi namusu ni edi chemo mepauchau se ye bremu bia mumisa se sa sika we ewohi ena yakwan ya basa ena ye schools aye basa ena mpuntu nkoso enti masam kakra midi jamu ne se ya de brow na wo achiro no omo na de baaye o na sa wo hwe na wontimi ndi wo so mesrao jidi na tuti amo jidi na tuti amo enti okandi ni na nyankopon de abrɛ no mesremo mo amabɛbɔ n'akyi dɔm wɔ ha nyinaa obia etomana alanjon kwadwo kyerɛmaten nneɛma koma so pɛ no ɔbaa bɛyɛ president to aseɛ hɔ baabi a mpuntuo wɔ to aseɛ hɔ baabi a nidasoɔ wɔ
eti sesi a baabi a Ghana akɔduru no ɛwɔ sɛ yɛ kokoden ɛde te Ghana si hɔ ɛsɛ sɛ Ghana yɛ mu kyekyɛ dodo ebia mo adwene ma ho NDC adi so for 16 years NPP so adi so for 16 years wokaba mu a 32 good years saa time no afei na nema di mfie 8 eti mfie 8 no party a yɛnim ɛyɛ NDC ne NPP Ghana ɛyɛ NDC ne NPP di ana ɛyɛ NDC ne NPP di ana and no Maya Manabesa Abetaho says, I feel Ukum Crasia, Obiasi Kawan Twaba, no Muti Alakashi Deeper, Obiasi, and you're Abatuabano. If we say your president, we won't change. Let me hear you say we won't change. We won't change. Mawanimne, so we are youth, that's our Pejuma. Nasa upe sikawa ubotom nasa umpese yebeka se whom you know and now protocola mami usa uka change choboy you to the aniabre ene boss dudu anwa ejuma ni ho kakra yebe so yebe so no na adane nsem eti afie we dey ya betre NDC ni NPP shege Bedema no sie no Bebesa, Madam Wase. Now, Unim, 7 December, you come, Munim de Bessier. Munim de Bessier. Munim de Bessier. Munim de Bessier. You come, Yashasro, Yashasro. Yashasro. Mammy, who said the service, Yashasro. Yashon Fifio, Yashon Fifio. Yashon Fifio. Yashon Bokum. Yashon Ifa. Yashon Bokum. Yashon Ifa. Yashon Ifa. Asia. Madam Wase, Choboy.
Onyame di opeso ya no obeye enti me di asida na mde mo onyame na se wo kokoro amuso a komshani Muhammad atabir wallahi sha se wo kokoro amuso a komshani Muhammad asamba ko kan ni se onipa bia no se wakoma mu ye fita onyame be hira wo de mpesa moti ase ni se ya santifo ye sohwe na yanko se ye dwane da ukuma apim baba me da hu jina me na so no is the Asante spirit in me etna me jina se otumfo ama me ho kwan a eka ende de esi enkentimi si ono no ma me ho kwan se me nante Asante me na me kwaje kwan wo ho no o sa ka sem bi a profound statement o say mani su ade hu a me de tintim krata so se Ghana fo ebeti ase dia egomo ma me kwan na saadie na me se meye no membra na membaye na mbo aka na ma wo so pese wo baye o man panyin a tie kwa na wo ba beye ana megwa tibi da me dia tintim grata so an wo kan se kojo se wei na wo so wo ba beye dia Ghana for yem for 2 minimum Ghana half an hour nyina baby obeko bia Ghana for do na say ye pese isisaye ba ana monte Ghana for say ye pese isisaye ba na ena anopa wi yi ye pese moti ase say Alan is the change 32 years ago me baby ejina na ejina enu na dika Ghana for say the person say ba they to so bienu Ghana for say they are tired of the winner takes all symbol and I want to say party way enya tumi a obi anka hu bio say o kan hu party and this for more prison bebe and this nya say pass pe na ndisi for nko a MPP for some person mutena bem wo sa de mo a MPP for nko a Ghana for say ya bre election ya koi say NDC wini a asembeba MPP wini a asembeba the only person who wini asunje beba Ghana ayala nchamati I have produced the first master blueprint for the development of Ghana. Say answer constitution na. No ma bebre wo man enkoye. Alancha mante meba mami asesa constitution. Ya bre bibia kwa politicians for Ghana. Obi real school onye adwuma da kra. No be politician na. No a big man. The arrogance of power in Ghana. Are they politicians who are there now? We say, no mami be president. With the government of national unity in Kabuma Baina Mediba Ghana. No one friend Diagro. But dear Ghana Edrum, we are looking for a transformational leader. It is not about NPP. It is not about NDC. It is about Ghana.
It is about an individual who has the vision, the competence, the capacity, and the capacity for action. You don't need a party card. You don't need a party card to qualify to be an appointee in my government. Hey, the catch your Ghana for him say Allah, the bet my do money. And that's what we know. And so perform am no mere propaganda. Oh, Allah there for the bet my do money. And so Potomana, if you are now winning one say vote. One more boy. Hey, they say Ghana uyi nipa edua emuso ase ya percent sayaba na sa enso no so obia to abama alana abana ala den weni eti wodi ahwe wodi na to abama ala na kwati obia asem propaganda no mo ye no se wahwa omo mudi kan ni nyina won so manyuma yesum acha se omo koto abama o ma eyesum nko ni baba ko pe ana kani ato mi so ayawania ayala nchematin odahifa
Truly African.
And it's always a pleasure to be on your screens. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Africa here on Pan-African Television. We're live from our studios 48 Swanika Street, Abilene, Accra. We are watched across 46 African countries, some parts of South America and Europe via satellite. My name is Ohimai Chajikum and I warmly welcome you to the show, Ghana's most sought after morning show, where all the insightful, progressive and compelling discussions are had. Now, this morning, it is with great pleasure that I sit here today. I mean, every day is a pleasure, but today is with great pleasure because a man that I have met so much has is part of my guest, and I also have my other guests are also reputable men, and we are going to have an insightful time here on the show. And you know, you can be a part of the conversation by sending in your messages on the numbers that will be displayed on the screens. And please be reminded that the number is just for text messages and WhatsApp and not for calls. And so if you call, we won't be able to pick those calls. So just send in your messages, your thoughts, your submissions on the number that will be displayed on the screen. Before I introduce my guest, I'd like to share with you the topics that have been tabled for discussion this morning. And we'll be talking about Blinken, as he says that now is the time to end the Gaza war. We'll also be looking at Mahama jabbing Akufo-Addo over handing of Saglemi housing project that has been captured by the Inside newspaper. And also, Supreme Court mustn't be a hatchet agent. This is coming from Tony Edu. NPP MPs trigger emergency recall of Parliament. They raise concern for urgent government business, and we'll be looking at that as well. Without much ado, I will just go ahead and introduce my guest. And this morning, again, it's with great pleasure to have Comrade Kwesi Pratt here with me. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, madam.
It's been a long time.
Wow.
We miss you. Welcome. And I also have with me here Dr. Elvis Bota. He is a member of the NPP, and he has joined to share, to be a part of today's conversation. Good morning, sir, and welcome.
Good morning. I'm actually the former national organizer of the NPP.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm here to. I've also missed that you weren't the only one who missed it.
Yeah.
So we are happy
so
to have you back.
So when I say we,
Yes, we included me. Okay, good to know that you've been such magnanimous.
Yeah.
I hope you are well yourself.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much, and thank you for always heeding to our call.
Sure.
Now, let's move on straight to our topic for the day. But before we move on to the discussion, I want to introduce you to this very book, this masterpiece, and that encapsulates Ghana's history. And I got the opportunity to get one myself, and I mean, I haven't finished reading, but I mean, per what I have read, I wasn't present during the time most of the events occurred, but I have a fair idea of what Ghana has been through from attaining independence till today. And so this book can be purchased here at Pan-African TV premises, or we'll be putting a number there. I mean, you can also send a message if you wish to buy one for yourself. It is very insightful, and you need to have a copy. Right, so away from that, let's just move on to our first topic for discussion, and it is that the U.S. Secretary of State, Attorney Blinken, told reporters in Tel Aviv on Wednesday that the war in Gaza should end now, and added that Israel needed to do more to allow in aid despite some improvement in deliveries. Now, Blinken said he had pressed Israel to allow more humanitarian aid into Gaza and reiterated his warning that the failure to do so could lead to a reduction of U.S. military aid. Now, there's progress made, which is good, but more progress needs to be made on that front, he said. Blinken said Israel needed to pursue an enduring strategic success after its recent tactical victories against Hamas. Since October 7, a year ago, Israel has achieved most of its strategic objectives when it comes to Gaza. Now is the time to turn those successes into an enduring strategic success. And there are really two things left to do. Get the hostages home and bring the war to an end with an understanding of what will follow, Blinken told reporters, speaking as he prepared to leave Israel Blinken also said Israel should grasp the incredible opportunity to normalize relations with Saudi Arabia, a process put on hold by the war in Gaza. Now, let me just take the thoughts of Comrade Kwesi Pratt. If you agree that now is the time, wasn't it supposed to be from the inception of the conflict? But why does Blinken say now is the time? I want to know your thoughts on this.
Well, now you cannot be shocked by U.S. hypocrisy. And U.S. hypocrisy has become the defining theme for the problems in the Middle East. It's so amazing. What is the war that Anthony Blinken is talking about? The war which started 76 years ago. Is that the war he's talking about? Because this war really started 76 years ago, when the occupying forces deliberately attacked, Palestine in order to drive the Palestinians out and to be able to steal their lands. And since then, 78% of Palestinian lands have been stolen by the occupying force. Since then, the Palestinians have been denied, normal human rights within their own territory and so on. Can you believe that Palestinian refugees are not allowed to return to Palestine? Okay, Palestinian refugees are not allowed to return to Palestine. But anybody from anywhere in the world who calls himself or herself a Jew is allowed to come and settle in Palestine. Does this make sense? And this has been going on for 76 years with the clear support of the U.S. So when the U.S. pretends to be an arbiter, I get shocked. All the bombs, or most of the bombs being dropped on Gaza, are supplied by the United States of America. The United States of America only last week promised to send a second, third defense system to Israel with 100 U.S. soldiers who would operate it as well. The U.S. is providing intelligence for the war against the Palestinian people and so on. So what is Blinken talking about? Blinken is one of these world politicians who talks at both sides of his mouth. He's not confused. He's a hypocrite. You understand? If the U.S. decided that this war should end, 1 year ago, the war would have ended 1 year ago. The U.S. is the main promoter of the war in Gaza. And he's talking about strategic victories of Israel. What are these strategic victories of Israel? Israel is not fighting Hamas soldiers. How many Hamas soldiers has Israel killed in 1 year? Israel is just bombing pregnant women, bombing vulnerable children, bombing unarmed civilians and so on. That's all Israel is doing. Pulling down residential premises.